Welcome to the Let's Talk About Life series. I can't remember where we're at now, if this is number 4. It's either number 4 or 5, but today Sarah Phoenix joins us from her page Infinite Ability and her business to talk about perceived importance versus actual headspace. So welcome, Sarah. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
I know we arranged this quite a good few weeks ago now, and when we cottoned onto the conversation, there was so much I wanted to dig into, and I thought this would be the perfect space and the perfect ideal opportunity for it. But since then, possibly like yourself as well, I can't remember what our conversation got onto.
No idea.
I've got no idea. I just knew it was something I wanted to talk about, and I know it's something I've struggled with a lot, being out of alignment with what, operating from a place where I think of what's important and what matters versus the deeper understanding of like what's really important. I didn't learn that brutal lesson until the complete collapse of my health and my life in 2018, and that really kind of aligned me with what really matters. And up until that point, I had struggled enormously with switching off, tremendously, for years and years and years. So we'll start by gentle invitation, Sarah. What does perceived importance versus actual headspace mean to you?
I think for me, this kind of concept has sprung a lot from the idea of procrastination, and that is a word that I don't like at all. I hate the idea that, well, you weren't doing anything, you were just procrastinating. And actually, for the majority of people, from the outside, it looks like you're just procrastinating. But actually what's going on is your head is running at 100 miles an hour. And there's lots of things in your head. And so you're not practically or physically doing anything because you cannot focus because there's too much in your head. And so I think that's where the concept started. And then I write a lot about like society's expectations and social etiquette and social norms and what that means and where they've come from, and whether we choose to fall into those kind of boxes or not, depending on how we feel about stuff. And so the idea of perceived importance is the idea of an external source dictating almost what should be important in your life, rather than actual headspace, rather than what's going on inside driving what you do and where you go and things.
And that's where I was at, operating from external sources and what I should be doing and what was important rather than what mattered to me. We've got some encouragement from Kimberly Jones for you, Sarah. Yay, go, Sarah. She says, hi, Kimberly. And Susan, welcome. It's nice to have some people here with us tuning in. That's where oh God, when did you realize that then, Sarah? Because you mentioned that's what you write to and speak to quite a lot, and I love reading your pieces and the twists and turns and the insights and how deep you go and where you go with it and how it's not what we normally see out there in the world at all. Not especially love. So how did you come to recognize
so it actually came out of a business idea, which came out of it was one of those accidental business ideas. So I do one-to-one brain unscrambling, and I'm kind of known as the professional brain organizer. And then people go, so you'll organize my brain, and I'm like, yeah. And it's something that I've always done, sort of instinctively. I didn't really realize it was a thing until I met other people that are self-employed, that run their own businesses, and things that I would say or do, and they go, how have you done that? And I'm like, I don't know, I just sort of did it. And then you realise actually I've been doing it always. I've always done it with people around me and my family and things.
Wow.
And so it got me thinking about like what I do and how I do it and why it's different. And so my autism ADHD diagnosis, I was 29, so I got that in December 22.
Mm.
And autism had always been on my radar. ADHD was a bit of a shock to the system. And I've sort of spent the last 4 years, not quite 4 years, kind of not reevaluating my life, but sort of working out like things from my past, sort of why I did that or why I approached things like that, and sort of just understanding a bit more about how my brain's wired. And so the brain unscrambling bit is that the ADHD Sarah can just intake loads and loads and loads of information at the same time. So if you just talk to me, I will just keep like it pulling in that information, and
Mm.
it doesn't matter if you keep going. I can just keep adding. I can keep storing all the things people say to me.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the autism then organises it, so it sort of comes out then in a really organised fashion, even though it's gone in very disorganised.
Wow.
And it was from this that I started one-to-one work, and people would say, I've got this deadline, I've got this deadline looming, and I've got this really important thing that needs doing, and it's really, it's the thing that's on my mind the most, the thing that's stressing me out. That's the thing that I need to get on top of. And then we start, and I go, okay, so that deadline, that thing that you are perceiving as the most important thing, is not what's in your head. That is not what's taking up the most headspace. And actually, if we clear the headspace, then the external deadlines can be met easier because you've got more space in your head. So I think it's since my diagnosis, and it's since sort of learning more about how my brain's wired. But I think the realization, I think I've always done it instinctively for myself, uh, without really realizing. I think I've always lived my life like that. In that kind of, I just got to deal with this because this is in my head, which for most of my life came with a lot of backlash.
Mm.
I've got my flat on the market at the moment. I've had a viewing. My husband was in America with work, and I'm on the phone with my friends, and I'm like, it's got to look slightly more like a home and slightly less like a volcano has hit and erupted and everything has just gone everywhere. But my bags for lives are not folded properly, and it's driving me mad. So I just stopped. I just stopped tidying, and I folded my bags. Did it make the flat look any tidier? No, not even a little bit. Was I able to tidy the flat quicker? Absolutely. Because I'm walking around trying to do stuff and actually going, but the bags aren't folded properly, they're not folded properly, they're not folded properly. And so I just do it, and I think I've always been like that. But from the outside, there's always kind of been this, that's not what you need to be doing right now.
Mm-hmm.
But
That's
I've
not
always
what
been
that's not
quite,
what's
yeah, I've always
what
been quite
you do.
headstrong. So
Yeah.
that kind of people going, well, that's not really what you should be doing right now. It's kind of never really sat with me. I've just kind of gone, okay, lovely, whatever, I'll just carry on and do my own thing. So I think I've always done it without really realizing what I was doing. And I think it's when I started working with other people and doing brain unscrambling with other people that I was then able to sort of articulate it into this kind of perceived importance versus actual headspace, kind of more succinct phrase than me rambling.
And how do you help them do that? Is that through a conversation, through one-to-one?
Yeah, so
Okay.
it's one everything I've done so far has been one-to-one. I've just launched the Magic Workday, which will see small group brain unscrambling. So I'm really excited to see how that unfolds. In terms of what I actually do, it is one of the most difficult things to explain. I basically sit with my wallpaper lining. I do everything on wallpaper lining because then you don't run out of paper because you just keep unrolling it. So I will sit with my Sharpies and the wallpaper lining on the floor, which, by the way, being pregnant is becoming increasingly more difficult. Moving around on the floor is not as easy as it was. But yeah, I sit and then whoever I'm working will just talk. And I couldn't tell you what I do or what goes on. That means that I can then unpick.
You're very intuitive. From getting to know you over the past, how long's it been now? A year and a half,
Gosh,
a couple of years?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, must be nearly a couple of years. You're very intuitive and very perceptive, and I would suggest that is you work with your senses more deeply versus
Definitely.
like, I have this 3-step formula.
Yeah.
Which I think we're all getting sick and tired of. I bring this planner in and I work with this,
Yeah.
You've moved,
And I might have a session might start, then I might think it's going to go somewhere, and then it'll go somewhere completely different.
Completely different, yeah.
And it sounds strange, but I don't really think. If I stop to think about what I'm doing or where the session's going or what we're unpicking, then it sort of interrupts the flow. I just sort of do.
So you're working flow as well, yeah.
Yeah, definitely kind of just in the moment.
Yeah.
And I couldn't tell you how I draw out from people what's taking up the most headspace, like what is actually taking up headspace. I couldn't tell you how I unpick that. And I think, like you say, I think it's an intuition thing. It's sort of, you listen, and it's to do with what people say, how they say it, the body language, all those things. But I'm not looking for anything in particular. I just sort of go, it's that's the thing that's stressing me out.
Oh my gosh, wow.
It just all happens.
And this ability to meet I've just written it down there, so I won't forget it. This ability to meet the person where they're at.
Yeah.
As well, you meet the person where they're at in the moment, which is a real skill, and it's a really undervalued, overlooked, and a bit too rare of a skill. Yeah,
I think that skill comes from my teaching background. I think you can teach somebody. When I was doing my degree, you can teach somebody to the sort of the research and the theory and the pedagogy around education and teaching and all of that. You can't teach someone an innate ability to just click with young people or anyone for that matter. And so I think that kind of meet people where they're at was always a strong point when I was working in schools. And it's why, the children that I work with did so well. Yes, I can explain maths well. Obviously, that is a requirement for the children to do well in maths, but actually it's more than that. It's it's being able to look at that child or sort of interact with a child who's completely got situational mutism, who doesn't speak at all, and just know if they've understood. But you just sort of you just meet, as you say, you just meet them where they are. And it took me a long time to realise that works with adults as well as young people, because I've always worked with young people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that something? My niece, she does an annual show every year in February, and she got quite a main part. I don't know if she's so brave. She was pretty much on the stage by herself, with maybe a couple of people right at the edge of the stage, but she was on the stage by herself, sung a song. I was like, wow, how beautiful. At the end, she was inconsolable because she could tell from the music that she'd missed some lines. And I thought to myself, I bet I can throw some meditation magic practices together, because she had another 2 nights to go, and I was like, you know,
Mhm.
that could make or break her little
Yeah,
acting career. She does it
absolutely.
every year. That could be enough to unsettle her, and her not continue in the way that she's announced that she is. So I threw something together the next day, which was something I'd wanted to create for a long time. It included, it came out as an animal journey meditation and some EFT tapping, and we sat together for about an hour and a half, and I went through all these practices with her, and connected her to like symbols of trust and all this amazing stuff, and then she went away and she absolutely nailed it. And the next performance that night and the night after, and then that became the voice reclamation, which is part of like the sovereign path for sovereign leaders. And she was 10. She was 10, and I realized, like, oh wow, there's really something in this. It works for young people,
Yeah.
children, as well as adults. I'm just going to read these comments out because it's great to be hearing people from the audience. We've got Kimberly Jones sharing, I'm the same. It feels like finding the little key that unlocks the bigger tasks. That's speaking to you, Sarah, when you were talking about the folding the bags and then making space for getting on with the job in hand. And then Kimberly Jones, I think we autistic people can read people in hidden levels of energy and information. Oh my gosh, yeah.
And I think, do you know what? I think that's really interesting, because there's a lot of autistic stereotypes, not just autistic, but just, you know, MD stereotypes out there. And one of the quite old stereotypes, which, you know, they are sort of filtering out, but, you know, there are still some around. But one of the very, very old kind of autistic stereotype is that you're not empathetic, and you don't understand people, you don't understand social cues, and, you know, struggle with socializing and all of that. And I find it fascinating, because I actually think I'm the other way. I think I'm far more in tune with others than a lot of neurotypicals. And I find it interesting. I mean, essentially, I suspect it's come because the research was done on how autism presents in males rather than how autism presents in females. I think it's got a lot to do with it. But as I write in a lot of my writing, I am not up for a political debate about any of it. I just talk about my own experience. So I think, for me, I just think it's really interesting, sort of how we perceive autistic people, like their social interactions, what we expect from their social interactions. And I think, you know, I pick up on things, and I guess the bit of the social interactions that I struggle with is I pick up on things and I don't realise that no one else has, because it seems so blindingly obvious to me. And then I'm sort of like, why is no one else sort of realised that's what's going on? And I think that's where I struggle. But yeah, it's interesting, because there are those stereotypes, and actually that's all they are. Very old stereotypes.
Yeah, I mean, my brother's male, and he's undiagnosed autistic, but he did very poorly at school. He just couldn't get on with the school system, and he did terrible in his GCSEs. But the kid actually came out as a genius when he worked in. He ended up working in factories, and he worked on like the factory line for years and years and years and years. And he could see things that no one else could see. So he could see things. He could know intuitively when a machine broke down. He would know where and exactly what and what to do to fix it. But he couldn't articulate that or communicate that to anyone. When they changed around the the area with the forklift trucks, he could like visualize exactly how it needed to be and how it would be, you know, how it would work the best. And it took years and years and years of him applying for promotions and being knocked back and being refused promotions for a very, very, very long time. He kept a little notebook. Bless him, I'm so proud of him. He kept a little notebook of all of his achievements until one day a senior like manager or a director person actually sat with him, and my brother shared with him all these, you know, all these big achievements that he'd recorded over all these years. And now people want to employ him all over the world, because what he doesn't know about machines isn't worth knowing. And he can remember every intricate detail from machines that he worked with years ago. And he also knows he doesn't only know how to get optimal performance out of the machines to increase profits. He also knows how to motivate, lead, inspire, and manage a team that comes back with 0 customer complaints. And now people actually want to understand how and why he knows that. But that's what I've realized. We haven't made space to see that, to understand it and explore it. And it does take a little bit of space, doesn't it? Like, because we can't see it.
I think it's tricky as well, because people want to know how and why. How do you do that? Why are you able to do that? You know, and sometimes it's just not something you can answer. I just know, you know, and that's where you need a level of trust, because you have to trust somebody, that, you know, that when they say, I just know this, you have to go, okay, we're just going to take your word for it. And I think culture is becoming more and more justified. Like, you have to justify everything, and I find that really hard. You know, and it took me a long time to sort of put the brain unscrambling as actually a part of my business, because what am I doing? You know, what gives me, and, you know, people talk about imposter syndrome. It's not really imposter syndrome. It's the not being able to answer about the how and why. That's what it is, really. It's not being able to answer the what are you doing, how are you doing it, why are you able to do it. And I'm like, just do, really. Which I think gets labelled as imposter syndrome a lot, and I don't think it's the same thing. It's not that I don't value my skill. I do value my skill. I just can't really explain what my skill is.
Yeah.
It's just instinct. Yeah.
That's a difficulty. I know in the process of writing my book and approaching I'm calling it the journey of exploration now, actually. It took me a long time to identify with the word journey. I was a couple of times introduced as being someone on a journey. I was like, journey, what? I'm just doing what I can to survive the day, my friend. I don't see myself on any journey. And it wasn't until I read You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay that I was like, oh, right, okay, so I am on a journey. And now I've written my book from beginning to end, and I have a full manuscript after 5 years. It's just gone live for pre-order today. When people have asked me over the years, what did you do? What did you do? And they want to know the one thing. And I'm like, my God, there is no one thing. And there's so many layers and pathways to this. And we can't, I personally am fascinated with complexity, but I couldn't articulate that in business. So I was fascinated by the complexity of business. The collapse of my life led to a fascination in migraine, and a fascination in hormones, but I couldn't even articulate that to anybody. And then, of course, you find yourself in spaces where no one really, no one really is interested anyway. And so I wonder now with my brother, because I did write an article, can't remember what it was about, but it spoke to my brother and his experiences. And thank you, Kimberly Jones. Kimberly's put, it breaks my heart to think of the unrecognised genius so many of us carry and can't always communicate. So happy for your brother, Amber. That is beautiful to hear. That really means a lot. Thank you so much. I feel for my brother and his experiences through what he had to suffer and endure a tremendous amount through his childhood. So now I'm better able to articulate it, but I've had to write a book, which is coming out at 170,000 words, which is a lot of words. It's probably going to be more like have to split it down in 2 books now, to be able to articulate this. And so I've wondered along this way and this path as I eventually get there, where I can communicate better to people in the audience or on podcasts and what have you, about my book and what I've done, that if we create the space for it, and taking interest. It's really well recognised that, just using migraine as an example, that it does lack interest. There isn't any interest in it. That's Migraine Trust speak to that, the UK kind of migraine organisation, and we need to take an interest. And I love the way you spoke to trust, Sarah. What is your relationship with trust?
It's interesting because I think I probably get this from mum. Mum was always, but so mum is a ex paediatric eye nurse, so she worked in Moorfields Eye Hospital, and although she specialised in paediatrics and eyes, she just has a nurse's instinct, just does. And so when we were living in London, although when I was a teenager, mum was gardening, she wasn't nursing. She was gardening, but she ended up with the majority of her gardening clients were elderly. And there was one gentleman in particular who had no family, and we sort of became his family. And mum used to do gardening, and what he liked to call indoor gardening, because he wouldn't, sort of the idea of needing any sort of care or support wasn't sort of on his radar. So mum did indoor gardening. And she just knew medically what was going on. And knew so strongly that she just hold her own. She'd have these conversations with whoever it was and be like, no, this is what's wrong. And you can do the test, you can do this and do it, but this is actually what's wrong, and I know that. And I think growing up watching mum sort of just trust her instincts, I think me and my brother and my sister, I think, have that as well, that kind of trust in ourselves, which, at times you've got the strength to hold your own, and at times you find yourself wavering. But I think as a family, we've got that. And then I think that then extends, because for me, anybody in their field, they're an expert in their field unless they show me otherwise. So I don't tend to question the authority, or authority is the wrong word, or sort of the knowledge or expertise of somebody. Like, I had to have my wisdom teeth out in lockdown, and my dentist said, go to this surgeon. I said, okay. And at no point did it occur to me to look elsewhere, because as far as I'm concerned, my dentist knows the best surgeon to go to have my teeth out. So that was that, really. And I think, but I think that the ability to trust others and their expertise, I think, has to come from the strength to trust yourself.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And I think we've got the strength to trust ourselves because that was what we experienced growing up. And so I do sort of, well, because that's your area. And I don't really think anything sort of beyond that. Which, I'm sure there's an up and downside to everything, isn't there? And I'm sure there has definitely been times, and there definitely will be times where actually a little more kind of research into sort of things might be beneficial. But actually, if we spend our whole lives trying to be the expert in every field, then one, that just sounds really boring, and two, it's sort of, you just spend your whole life like questioning everything. And I just think life's too short. Like, know the stuff you know, and then seek help from people that know the stuff that you don't know. And just embrace the knowledge of others without, and this, because this sweeps right back round, trust others without then questioning how they know what they know. You know, and that trust. But I do think the trust, being able to trust others and their knowledge and their expertise, I think does come from the ability to trust yourself, particularly if you're trusting your own judgment without any real understanding of how you've come to that conclusion.
And if anyone that's listening today, live with us now, or later on when we share it as a blog and the recorded video, if those people are struggling with their own relationship with trust, with self-trust, what would you encourage them with? How would you?
I think
would you have
the thing that will help, for me anyway, I believe the thing that will help more than anything else is, and it's find your tribe. Now, this is the branch of my business that sort of looks at the ND community.
Mm-hmm.
And I talk about in my life, find your people. So much so that at my wedding, my husband did his groomsman speech. And in his speech, he said, "You talk about finding your people. You are my people."
Oh.
So it's such a core part of everything I do, whether it's life or business or home or whatever. And I think, and that's kind of why I set up Find Tribe Festival. If you can find people that you can almost test out yourself on, and find the right people, because if you've got a set of beliefs or you've got intuition or instinct or anything like that, and there's a bit of your brain that's going, well, I know that, and then there's a bit of a brain that's going, but do I know that? If you have the right circle of people, you test out that belief and see how it lands. And if you've got the right people, you'll find that no one bats an eyelid. And it's not about, going, oh, well, do you believe me, or anything like that. But if you just sort of put your thoughts and feelings and knowledge out there, if you have the right people around you, they're not going to then shower you with praise and all the rest of it. It's just going to become a non-event. And the more that your knowledge, expertise, insights, the more they become non-events, the more you learn to trust yourself. And I think that's really interesting, because so often we look at things in terms of positive feedback or negative feedback. But I actually think the strength lies in no feedback whatsoever. I don't need somebody to say you're amazing. I just need them to take it at face value. And I personally, for me, that feels a lot stronger than wasn't that amazing. Because then it just becomes a part of who you are. Like, the brain unscrambling, I just do it. It's just a part of who I am. And I think that's where you find the ability to trust yourself, and then which then leads on to trusting others.
That's amazing, because that speaks to kind of a circle. I know, excuse me, it's not necessarily a circle experience, but the only place I discovered and learned that was in a circle experience, where you would speak your truth or you would share what was coming up for you, and people wouldn't respond. They wouldn't give advice. They wouldn't jump in. They wouldn't try and fix you or rescue you. They would simply hear you. And actually that did absolutely loads for my confidence, for helping me feel supported and seen and heard, for helping me have needs met that some of them I didn't even know existed. I didn't know I had a need to be witnessed. And so that was how I learned. I was working on self-trust. I read a book, Gabby Bernstein's The Universe Has Your Back was a brilliant book for strengthening my relationship with self-trust. And then, a bit like you've just shared, actually, funnily enough that you should say find your people, I've just finished editing a chapter the other day for the book that's due to be published in October, called Find Your People. and it speaks to that, because that, yeah, that thinking about, I love these talks. They make me realize
Mm.
things I didn't realize before. That is, because I was like, I love where you're going with that and how you're approaching that, and then actually reflecting on my own experience. So that's exactly what I did. I found my people, but it was in a way that I'd identified my needs, which my biggest need was support, and I was, desperate for support, beyond desperate. And I needed to be bloody heard. I just needed someone to hear me. I didn't
Yeah,
even need to respond or
yeah.
say anything. Or so, yeah, I did it through circles. So yeah, that speaks to that. How did you do it? How did you find? What's been your approach to finding your people?
So I talk about sort of my journey of unmasking. I refer to it as turning myself inside out. And for those that have known me a long time, it's, oh well, you weren't always like this. And then it's that conversation for, no, I was just on the inside. I'm just now like this on the outside.
Turning yourself
Um,
inside out. I love that.
Turning yourself inside out, yeah. So there's been times where I've, and to be fair, a lot of this has come after my diagnosis. A lot of it's come after that diagnosis. And there's been times where I felt like I've unmasked, and then something will happen, or I find myself in a situation where I find myself like really overwhelmed, and then I'll be like, oh no, there's another layer that we need to peel back here. And I think finding my people has come from quite a heart-wrenching and brutal realization of who sticks around, and how people respond to what they view as a different or a new me.
Oh God, yeah, I got a fair few responses to that one.
Yeah,
It took me
and
years
actually,
of hindsight to look back and go, actually, I was to them, I was a different
yes,
I was showing up in my friendships and relationships in a way that I never had done before.
yeah.
So
And
yeah.
I met my now husband online, and I our first date, I spent the day at my friend's house, because so it's her and her husband and her two children. And it's just a whole household of undiagnosed everything. And I know, and at the time, I don't. There's not. There's. It's very scarce now that I find myself in a situation where I'm not completely myself.
Mm.
But what was this, end of January 2023? I knew that the one place that I was completely myself, completely unmasked, and completely just as I am, was at her house. So I organised my first date with my now husband for the evening that she was around, that I could spend the day there, because I was like, there's no point me meeting someone if I'm not going to be me from day one. And
Wow.
the only way I can be me from day one is by spending the day in a space where I can be me.
Wow.
Because at that point, not all spaces didn't have the ability to be completely me in all spaces. And so, and that for me was really important. And so, yeah, you sort of, you lose people along the way,
Mm.
either because you drift, or because you make that decision to go, do you know what, you the relationship, the friendship, the whatever it is that we had was with a different person. It was with this outside me and not with the inside me. And I
Mm.
don't want the outside me anymore.
Yeah.
Um, and I'd love to say that it's a, lovely journey and it's all great, happy and rainbows and sprinkles. It's not, it's hideous. It's
Unmasking
absolutely
is the
hideous.
hardest thing I have ever done in my life. The hardest. It's so hard. It was easier to be severely ill and bedbound and
Yes,
puking all day and
yes,
pooping.
yeah.
Like,
And that's what I look, and do you know what, I think the point where I kind of really consciously went, no, that's it. I'm only having people that I can be completely 100% transparent in myself with. Was when we were planning the wedding. We had the most ND wedding you will ever experience. It was wonderful. It was just the most
Oh,
weird and wonderful space. Everyone was doing their own thing. We had outfit changes when things got sensory overload, and we had like people dipped in and out. It was just wonderful.
amazing.
But when we were writing our guest list, we're looking, at people, that are on the list, and just thinking, is this like genuinely for each sort of family or person, whoever it was, came and I sat there and had a conversation and went, is this somebody who we are completely ourselves around? And if the answer is 100%, yep, they made it on the guest list. If the answer was even, well, most of the time, no. And
Brilliant.
so we actually just didn't, there was people that, it was even that smallest bit of thinking, oh, I'm not always myself around you. They were like, we didn't make the cut. And that sounds horrible. It does. It sounds awful.
Boundaried. Sounds
But
boundaried.
it just created the most wonderful atmosphere.
Oh, wow.
And it was quite a strong woman. And I think finding someone that you can do that alongside has made a big difference.
Mm.
And Caelan's done a lot of this journey with me because I got my diagnosis in the December 22 and I met him in the January 23. So he's done the whole, like, I've always been myself with him, but he's watched me unravel. Yeah, which is just fascinating. I can't remember what your original question was now, Amber. I can't remember what you actually
Neither
asked
can
me.
I am just loving this conversation. I love it. It's like you're writing, Sarah, the twists and
Do
turns.
you know what? You said something earlier, and I thought that's just like something earlier, and I said, "Oh, that's." I thought, "Oh, that's just like my writing." Being heard. When we were talking about sort of being heard and not sort of seeking approval
Mm.
or anything. You said, oh, you were saying about being in a circle and sort of, just that space where, yeah, where you were heard. And I think my writing has never been for anyone except myself. And in fact, it's not even for myself to read. And this is we have this, don't we? We have this running joke in that I write and go. I don't write and proofread to the point where I get some wonderful type. If you want to find a great typo, have a look at my writing because it literally just goes straight out. But because for me, my writing is just what's going on in my head at the time. And therefore, it's a space to be heard. There's no purpose to it, as it were. There's no kind of, if it speaks to people, it speaks to people. And if it doesn't, it doesn't, and that's okay. Yeah, and I just sort of happens.
And that's one of your own brain unscrambling practices then, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Writing. And you don't write to perfect, you don't edit, you don't even have pictures on Substack, which are just like, you literally write and go. You're like healing free writing on a Wednesday, like, right, I've written a piece and it's off out now and then I'm off. I'm getting on with the rest of my day. I love it. I love it. And this, I know I hope it's okay to share, Sarah, but I know you're on the book writing journey as well, in the process of writing your own book. And one of the many compliments that's come back, but one of the ones that stays in my mind with my publishers, one of the compliments that they spoke to was that it's very, and you could take this either way, by the way, because wait till it comes out. They can tell that I didn't think about my audience at all. So you could see that as a really good thing. But what they meant by that was they could tell that I hadn't preoccupied myself with thinking about the audience. And because of that, it had enabled me to dig deeper into the detail and actually get to the nitty gritty of what readers will want and need to see and will benefit from most. And just as we've been chatting, not that I need any more reminders of why me and you just click and we just
I know we've always clicked, haven't we?
Instantly hit it off, just everything you've shared. I'm just like, yeah, that's why. And that, that as a practice is not only great for your brain unscrambling, but is also going to pay dividends when it does come to the time to publish your book. So very, Very exciting. We're 44 minutes in. I've loved this. I could continue it easily. There's so many things that we could dive into. Maybe we'll arrange another one. That'd be wonderful.
Yeah.
And if anyone listening or tuning in after would like to hear us speak again or speak to anything specifically, do let us know. That would be really good to hear from you. And yeah, I forgot. I forgot I was going to finish it. Then I've just totally lost my track. But yeah, that was it. Oh gosh, where can people find you, Sarah?
So I'm on LinkedIn.
That's where we
Sarah
met.
Phoenix.
Love. Well, I think we experience LinkedIn differently to a lot of people, but that's yeah. I love LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn. I'll share
And
these
so on
post
Substack. I'm on Facebook. If I'm honest, social media is not. I'm not a fan of social media. For me, the space I hold is my website. That's my little.
Lovely.
That's my space. And I sort of don't. A lot of people have got the business them and then the personal them. I don't have that. It's my business website, but you'll find my blog and I talk about, all sorts. So it is my business website, but it's just me. So I'm around and I'm always up for chats. If anybody wants to, I'll just talk for England. I am in and around, but I tend to be you'll find me more in sort of conversations rather than social media, if that makes sense. I sort of messages or groups or conversations rather than sort of big wide world of social media.
Amazing. I'll reference your link to your website then, so and Substack, so people can find you on your blog. And it's been brilliant. I've really, really enjoyed this. Thanks a lot, Sarah.
Yeah, it's been great. It's been fun. Yeah, thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. It's been amazing. See you everyone. Bye. Thanks for
Bye.
See you next week.